All right, everybody, welcome to the 330th edition of the Holy Backboard podcast. I am Dustin here in sunny Rip City, and I got my man.
Sage chilling live and direct here, about to talk about another draft prospect, and this guy's really, really cerebral and smart. And normally for these podcasts, I kind of lead the direction of like, Jarris is my favorite. Jet, we had a communal decision about Cam, but Jalen is your guy. So after you talk about his statistics, I want you to let the people know why you love Jalen Hood-Schifino so damn much.
I mean, you heard the man. The prospect we are discussing today is Indiana combo guard Jalen Hood-Schifino. He is a freshman, 6'6", stands 6'6", weighs 213 pounds, five-star prospect according to Rivals, was the fourth rated shooting guard, 18th prospect overall nationally. Just ended his season this past weekend in the round of 32 as Miami lost to, or excuse me, as Indiana lost to Miami. So his freshman season has wrapped up. Most experts expect him to put his name into the NBA draft, just as we have seen from other prospects such as Maxwell Lewis and Taylor Hendricks. It's kind of that time of year where seasons are over, players start to declare, and I wouldn't expect anything different from Hood-Schifino. Played 32 games for the Hoosiers and got a big role. 33 minutes per game. Was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. I believe he made third team All Big Ten as well. Averaged 13 and a half points per game on 42% from the field, 33 from three, 78 from the line. Grabbed four rebounds, handed out nearly four assists, and almost had one steal per game. The one problem area was the nearly three
Oh
turnovers
yeah.
per game, with a player efficiency rating of 13. But Sage, this is a prospect that, you know, we had done so much of a deep dive last year. Like we put like basically so much blood, sweat, and tears into the class of 2022. And we had a few life events for us as well. And the Blazers also started out really hot, right? They were 10-4. We were starting to think nothing but playoffs. Could this be, kind of a miracle season? And then quickly we're now in the same boat as we were last year. It's now I wouldn't say we're in scramble mode, but there's an urgency to start to evaluate these prospects. And I follow recruiting decently, and Hood-Schifino was a name. I saw him on the mocks in the first round. I'm like, who is that? Like I haven't heard of him. So, obviously the thing that stands out is you have a 6'6" ball handler. The Blazers desperately need size. We haven't had size at that position in ages. Really, over 6'4" lead guards are rare to find in the NBA throughout history. And when you can grab one, you do, because they just make life so much more difficult for the opposition. And that's really what I love about his game. So I started doing a deep dive, not just looking at the box scores, not just reading scouting reports, like going to the tape, seeing what his strengths are, seeing what his weaknesses are, and also realizing this is a 19-year-old prospect. And the more I've looked at this class, everyone has their warts. You have to, when you're evaluating prospects, you have to say, one, are these warts, can you clear these up, with some soap and water? Like can these be worked out? And what skills do they have that can be translatable to the next level? Um, there are two things that he has that you just can't teach. One is that size at 6'6". The other one is, I think you said it, he's a cerebral player who has an incredible feel for the game. And it didn't take long of watching tape to notice that. And that's where I instantly fell in love with this prospect. Right now, Tankathon has him 16th on their big board, and the Ringer has him 14th. I do expect him to rise a bit on draft night. It wouldn't be surprising me to see him go right outside of that top 10. He's going to impress in workouts once he gets there. And when you flip on the tape and you watch him play, there are some moves that he makes, and you're looking like you're watching a 10-year NBA veteran. Not You're not watching a 19-year-old in his first, year playing D1 hoops in the Big Ten. He had a move against Purdue and all-world center Zach Edey, and he comes off the pick and roll, and he's fantastic operating in the pick and roll, so comfortable. Again, that is another skill set that is directly translatable to the NBA, because the NBA, everything is operated out of that pick and roll. He's really comfortable with that, and he just reminds me so much of CJ McCollum when I was watching him, because I worked for the Blazers, and we did a draft show with Mike Rice, Sarah, Casey, and CJ was my guy. I love CJ since watching him at Lehigh, and CJ wasn't the most athletic, neither is Jalen Hood-Schifino, but CJ's feel for the game, his pace, and even at 22 years old, his dribble package, like he was crafty. CJ, crafty James McCollum. Hood-Schifino has a lot of craftiness to his game, and the play that I'm talking about, you go to any, Purdue, Indiana highlights, comes off the pick and roll. He's going downhill on the left side of the court. In one motion, he just uses his head to get the defender in the air, kind of stops a little bit, and then starts again. And he got Edey off of his rhythm, off of his rocker, and he had a clear path to the basket. And you watch him, the way he really puts his defenders in a chamber, and they don't know which way he's going to go. Like, he's good at really backing them up, kind of like Chris Paul does in the mid range. He's just really smooth, really crafty. He has a nice crossover, a nice hesitation, herky jerkiness, but also really smooth and under control, plays with a lot of pace. There's just an unquantifiable feel that he has when I watch him play. And he is not a ready-made NBA player, but by no means. Like, he really needs to go to a system where he is able to play through mistakes, because he is a developing playmaker. So I do understand why he's lower on some draft boards, but when I see him, I see a player who's already used to playing with an NBA prospect in Trace Jackson Davis. They really ran the pick and roll nicely with them. So he's used to playing with the big that can get it done and know where to get him the ball, not overpass him, let the big kind of do some of the work. And he just has such a smooth mid-range jump shot. Now, the knock on him doesn't really have the range out to 3-point quite yet, and he is a streaky 3-point shooter. Like, you can just play roller coaster tycoon with his box score, because you're looking at some games against January 28th against Ohio State, 6 of 9 from downtown. January 5th against Iowa, 5 of 8. The following game against Northwestern on January 8th, 5 of 7. But then you look at the last tournament game, he basically goes like 0 of 7, 0 of 8, and then he hits 3 more to kind of close the gap at the end of that contest. So he is a streaky shooter from downtown. I think once he gets some strength and some repetition, he will extend that range. But this is a player that you're not going to want to force out on the perimeter that deep. He is comfortable in the mid-range. This is where he operates. He likes to get to his spots. And if he does just become a respectable 3-point shooter, the defenses aren't going to know how to defend him, because you can't play drop coverage on a player that is going to hit an open standstill jumper. But if you play tight on him, he is going to use his body. He is very good at using his body to find nooks and crannies and create just a little bit of space. He's, again, at 6'6". He's going to be much stronger and taller than almost everybody he's going up against. And I think that's just going to be such a swing factor when you're looking at drafting a prospect. And so just offensively, I love what he has, but what he can become is really tantalizing when you look at a 6'6" lead ball handler who plays with space, or plays with pace, and just has an overall knack for what he's doing. And those type of players, you saw it with Brandon Roy, you saw it with Damian Lillard. When you watch them, you're like, they've got it. And I don't care if they're not athletic, because they're going to be in the league a long time. And you want players like that over, honestly, the Ja Morants and Russell Westbrooks, because then they have to figure out feel for the game and shooting. And those are so much harder to figure out. You know, the other players aren't blessed with that God-given athleticism, but that athleticism has a timer on it, and it expires much faster than any other thing when it comes to professional basketball, and usually around the 30-year mark of age. So players like Hood-Schifino, I love because for whatever reason, teams and scouts, they're going to devalue them. Like there's no reason Dame should have dropped to sixth in that draft, but he was an older player, didn't have quite the athleticism, smaller school. They like to find you for those knocks. But those are the same knocks that I think make a player great. And I see only I would be very surprised if Hood-Schifino doesn't come closer to his ceiling rather than his floor. And I think he does have a pretty safe floor. The ceiling may not be like crazy, like someone like the Thompson twins, but I think he has a better chance of hitting a lower ceiling than those types of prospects. And so if you're looking for a relatively safe prospect, but with a decent room to grow, I don't know why more teams wouldn't be on the lookout for him. But yeah, just that's one of the main things when I watch a prospect is like, does it click? Like, how do they operate when you watch them? Like, are they getting buckets? How are they getting those buckets? It's just some of the things he was doing out of the pick and roll. I'm like, yeah, that's
him
NBA
and
right
Jackson
there.
Davis have a connection for sure.
It was just NBA right there. So that's why I was really excited. I was like, okay, this is the guy I want to talk about next. I want to get your take on it as well. I value your opinion. I think you're a really good prospect evaluator, and I like to hear what you have to say.
I think our biggest difference between prospects is the dribbling and playmaking abilities of players, because I feel like he gets walled up quite a bit. And I think it might be because he isn't the most athletic and the most creative with his dribble moves to get those like easy victories. He gets met at the rim quite a bit, which is it's worrisome because he does have great touch, but he has to get to the places where where the great touch happens. Like I think his mid-range game is really good, but how many teams outside of New Orleans is going to favor that mid-range jumper? Like they have CJ and Brandon Ingram who love those stuff. I watched games where he was just absolutely looking like Trae Young because he has that confidence of once he gets shooting, he's gonna start shooting. I think his last game in his NCAA career, he shot like 20 plus times. So he has the willingness to shoot, but just sometimes the accuracy isn't there. I've seen him take some really bad jumpers, especially in that last game where it was just brick city sometimes. But I think I think that because he was in that Indiana system with Jackson Davis, it made up for a lot of his issues with play. I don't think he's like a true blue playmaker. I think he's a combo guard that passes.
Agreed. And also, you said Indiana. They're coached by Mike Woodson, former coach of the New York Knicks. So that is another bonus when you're looking at prospects is who's coaching them.
But when you look at like they do a lot of predetermined passes, it isn't him reading and reacting. They're going to run a pick and roll. Jackson Davis is going to run to the hoop, and Hood-Schifino is going to give him the ball. So it makes me think, okay, he can hit those predetermined reads, but
he can do the bare minimum.
Yeah, like what happens when he has to make a decision in the NBA where there isn't those predetermined reads? Like he has to make a play happen. So it makes me think he's more of a combo guard than a true playmaker point guard, which ain't a bad thing. He's got the size to be a good combo guard, but it makes me think like, do we need to have a Damian Lillard in place for him to truly hit his ceiling, which I think is achievable? But I mean, like the offense, it's all predetermined on that shot. Like if he can hit the shot at a good rate, he's not going to get taken off the floor because he's a damn good defender. But the thing that I noticed outside of like the freshman mistakes where he just dribbles into multiple people, causes a turnover,
passing cross court, trying to do too much,
or falls in love with Jackson Davis and force feeds Jackson Davis, who I think is a very nice prospect, but like he just has eyes for him. Like in the games I watch, it was like, oh, I'm giving it to Jackson Davis and letting him do his thing. I see the calm, cool, collected guy, but sometimes he gets rushed up in his thinking, and it isn't the best thing. So when the pressure's not on and he can just do his thing, I really do like what he can do. And then just defensively, I think, damn, he's a very good defender.
Yeah, I really like. So you mentioned the pressure, and one thing about the NBA is he's not going to be the top dog right off the
Oh,
bat. He's not going to have defenses focused in on him. He's going to have multiple Jackson Davises to look for and figure it out. A lot of the things with college, obviously watching Purdue get upset by Fairleigh Dickinson, their offense is like you get the ball, you dump it into Zach Edey. Like that
mm,
that is your job on offense. So I do think a lot of the offense is probably predicated on we've got an all-American power forward. Give him the ball. Like
mm,
first and foremost, you give him the ball or otherwise you're coming off of the floor. So I think there is some of that going on. But yeah, of course he's gonna fall in love with that. I've seen Justin Herbert fall in love with Dylan Mitchell his sophomore year because that's the only receiver he had, and like he just locked in on him. Like
mm.
that happens. Uh, but he also grew from that. I am willing to gamble, and you mentioned it. I think he is more of a combo than a true point, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's Halliburton or Lonzo Ball type of floor vision at that height. But if I am drafting him, no matter the team, if I am drafting him, I give him at least 2 years as the ball handler, as the point guard. I need to see if you can be, if his vision and playmaking and dribbling can be unlocked. And the only way to do that is to really put him in position and kind of let him get his feet wet. Um, Otherwise, you're not going to know. Like you're not going to know watching his tape because he just didn't get those type of looks or reads at Indiana
Mm.
system. You're probably not going to get that at the combine. You're not going to get that in one-on-one workouts. Like there has to be some interviews that you go along with them, maybe some tells maybe that you see in tape, maybe random spontaneous plays on the fly where you're like, yeah, I think this guy can do it. So there is a lot of faith and taking a lot of leaps with these prospects that you say like we didn't know what he could do from his collegiate days, but we believe he can, or we're going to roll the dice and hope that he can because that unlocks a whole other level of a prospect. But before you make that decision, you have to be okay if that doesn't work. Like if you're taking him at 10, you have to say, okay, if this doesn't work, do we still like him as a prospect? Like you have to when you're looking at a prospect, you have to look at their floor. Are you okay with that? Because that is a good chance he hits that floor. Like this is the bare minimum type of player that you're going to get. And so
And
you
when
kind
you're
of
at
have to
that
do.
height, when you're at like 10 and above, having a rotational player is preferred. Like when you're below that, you want the star potential. But when you're at like 10 to 12, give me a guy that can be a rotation player in the league. There is not that many stars in this draft. There's two, and then there's a shitload of good role players.
Unknowns. Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of role players. And we look at a player like Jalen Brunson, taken really late in the first round, another senior guard from Villanova. Now he's probably going to be all NBA.
Mm.
And again, wasn't the most athletic. Scouts probably thought he tapped out with his potential. It's just so important to know. Not only is he 19, but a lot of these players are going to be under 22. That is so crazy to me that we're tapping guys out and saying no, they're too old. Bullshit. Like there's
Well, you
still
see that with
so
Terrence Shannon. Like I
Marcus
would have him in
Sasser.
the top 20, and I see him at the 56th, 57th, and I'm like, God damn, what's
Yeah,
what's
there's
what's the
we
difference?
have to stop doing that as talent evaluators and say, oh, they can no longer grow once they're not a teenager.
What about
That's
Draymond Green? Like, there's guys that just work past Desmond Payne. There's just good play. Like, as long as I would rather take, and if we're talking like 15, 16, I'd rather just take the good player instead of the potential because at that level, what if that potential never happens and you just have a guy that's 4 years and done? I'd rather have the guy that's going to be a 10-year vet on my team.
those are hard to come by. But you mentioned it defensively. I really like his on-ball defense, moves his feet really well side to side. Again, at 6'6",
I
You
think
can
it's that
switch it.
it's the IQ and this the
He's
cerebralness
just
that
a very smart, intelligent basketball player. The size, again, is a huge swing factor for me because let's say you want to play small or you want to play, or a team wants to seek him out in a pick and roll. It's going to be tough for them. He's 6'6". That's small forward size. So he's now able to at least match up size wise on a lot of these bigger guards or forwards. And I
do you
think
think
that
he's
that is
one
a
through three?
I think he's 1 through 3. It depends on the three, but like I think you can get away with it. Like you're not worried about it. Again, with damn near every prospect that we've scouted, off ball is an issue. Off ball takes time to learn. He gets caught ball watching. It's tougher to be engaged off ball. Off ball, you have to keep your head on a swivel at all times, and you have to do that for what 60, 70, 80 possessions at the collegiate level. That's going to ratchet up to 90 to 100 possessions
Mm.
at the NBA level over 82 games. So off ball has work to be done, but we said the same thing about Shaden Sharp. I mean, there's things that you have to get repetitions doing. You have to play. But again, the feel for the game, the cerebral feel, just the overall, just yeah, he just has that unquantifiable it factor for me when it comes to knowledge that I think he can become a solid off-ball defender, knowing the passing lanes, reading scouting reports, learning tendencies. That I'm willing to bet that becomes at least a neutral for him down the line.
Mm. Yeah, so I think it's pretty obvious that with his IQ, he fits in the future with Shaden. But do you think that fit with Shaden Sharp is going to be a good one? And does the playmaking factor in the fit with Shaden Sharp? Like if he doesn't hit his playmaking marks, is he a good fit with him?
It's a really good question. Good questions. I should say. First of all, I love the fit with Shaden. I mean, going from Damon CJ, now Damon Ant, then you have two guards, 6'6" and 6'7" in your backcourt. Like, I absolutely love the size that Portland would be able to have. Shaden plays really well off ball. Again, we would love to see him a little bit with more on ball reps. So I think there is a nice balance that the two could have. Now, if you do draft Hood-Schifino as kind of like that combo guard to play next to him for the foreseeable future, I absolutely think one of your other three players in that lineup has to be a playmaker, whether it's a Yusuf Nurkic, a Prime Batum, someone like that, even a Jarris Walker type. If we're talking
Oh,
about this
no, don't tease
draft,
me like that.
who's able to make plays out of the short roll, who can catch the ball in the middle of the floor and then kind of like make decisions in an instant. I think that would help. Um, so I think you could definitely get away with that if he never becomes that playmaker. One, I mean, we want Shaden Sharp to be the highest ceiling possible, so he needs to become a playmaker as well. So I think you're also banking on that. You can't just say Shaden's 19. He can't do it now. He's never going to be able to do it. No, you need to develop him into a playmaker as well. So maybe if you don't hit on Hood-Schifino as that top tier playmaker and decision maker, Shaden needs to be able to step up and take more of those on ball reps so they can kind of play off of each other in that backcourt. But I still am I trust. I would put my faith in Jalen to become at least a plus decision maker at the next level in by the time his rookie contract is up.
Okay. I mean, are you worried about the athleticism offensively? Because I think defensively he's fine. Like he's just so smart defensively. But if he's getting walled up by college defenders, is there a worry that he's gonna get destroyed by NBA defenders that aren't gonna give him any space and he can't get to his spots where he's just buckets?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the athleticism is a reason why he's not projected to go higher. I just think those type of players are just so rare where they have everything that you want. You have to kind of take the good with the bad. And one thing to note is like it's kind of someone who I look at like CJ didn't have the athleticism and he didn't have the finishing package or the dribble package coming out of Lehigh that he does now. Like he worked on his game. and now he's able to do things that he wasn't able to.
Yeah,
He
he can
finds
finish in the. Mhm.
he finds ways to create space. He uses his head, his eyes. He uses his handle. Like he uses his whole body to throw the defense off without being overly quick or overly athletic. Um, that's a player. If I'm Hood-Schifino, I study. I look at how he's able to create space because CJ does have enough space. One thing I do love is Hood-Schifino has a high release on the jump shot so that he's able to get the shot off. And he's 6'6". So if he's guarding against, if you're trying to put a smaller point guard on him, he really could just rise up,
Mm.
to be perfectly honest, over the top. And so that's just such a bonus to have that size. Like right now, like if he were a 4-year prospect, I think you're a little bit more worried if he's getting walled up and not able to finish. But with him being 19, there is just so much additional growth. Like we as humans still grow at that age. So he could grow physically, mentally. I think there is room for him to get tighter with the handle, learn those moves, become more crafty. So I'm not too concerned. I really, again, obviously I really like this prospect. I think he's much I don't think he's a finished prospect product by any stretch of the imagination.
It's where we're if we get Hood-Schifino, it's where we select him. I would feel very worried if it's with the Blazers pick. I would be ecstatic if it was with the Knicks pick or if we traded up. Like let's say we trade up. I would be ecstatic. It's just like him at 6 through 10, I'm terrified. But 12 through wherever, I'm hyped. We get a guy that I think is gonna be a rotation player for his entire career, getting like 3 contracts. But it's just like it's where it is. I don't want to put so much resources into him if it's with the Blazers pick. But I truly think that he's gonna be in the NBA for a long time.
Yeah, I think the floor is incredibly high for him. And again, we've discussed if like one or two guys aren't on the board at 6 or 7, trade down because
Yeah.
there's too much variance with the players that are projected in that mid to late lotto. Pick up some extra assets. Like we talked about this. If our guy's gone and then we have 7, you definitely look at Utah and say, hey, do you want to trade 13 and
Yeah.
15 for
Yeah.
7?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
He's
then
one of
and
those.
then I'm totally hyped with
Yeah.
Schifino. So do you have anything else you want to talk about, or are we talking our comps? Because I have some weird ones.
Let's hear your comps.
So I think there's one where there's multiple variations on what he can be. Like I would say he reminds me a lot of Jalen Williams from Oklahoma City. The pick and roll reads, the defense, like I could see that. But we really don't know what Jalen Williams is going to be, so I shouldn't say, he's going to be Jalen Williams. I don't know what his future holds, but right now he looks like a legit player. I think if the playmaking never shows, someone like shit, who's the guy in New York that's the guy from Alabama? Shit.
Quentin Grimes.
Quentin Grimes. I think he's Quentin Grimes because
I think he played
Quentin
at Houston.
shit. Well, I knew it was red and in the South. I knew it was red in the South. But like I think Grimes is a great defender. He doesn't really touch the ball that much except to shoot it. Like, I think that if he doesn't develop any playmaking, he's in that realm of low usage, great defender, shooter that's can catch flames, but is kind of high variance with the shot. But if his playmaking does come around, you know who I was really thinking? Like, you told me you love Jalen Hood-Schifino. I was like, all right, I'll watch it. I'm like, are you making me watch a 6'6" version of Eric Snow? Because like Eric Snow, he did his work with LeBron or Allen Iverson, high usage guy. He played defense. He did the little things to make the team work. And I think that's what Jalen Hood-Schifino is. He's gonna do all the little things to make your team win. And when I saw that, I thought of Eric Snow's old ass.
That's a name I haven't heard in a minute.
I know, but like when I, like cerebral, a little slow, good defender, does all the small things to allow you to win. Played in the league from like I think he was drafted by the Supersonics, played with LeBron James. So had a very long career of either being a starting player or a rotation player coming off the bench.
Yeah, I couldn't find, I still can't. I don't know what his floor is in terms of a player, but I do think he's at least a role player
Mm-hmm.
for at least 6 to 10 years. Like I
Yeah.
think he'll be in the league for quite a bit. The middle of the road, and it's something I really did like. The Ringer said he has shades of Spencer Dinwiddie, and I can definitely see that. Dinwiddie plays on and off the ball. Not the most purest of point guards, but he has great size. He has the ability to catch fire from downtown. And generally, whatever team he goes on, he contributes.
Yeah.
And he can be a pretty mid-level starter in the league. And so I think if you're drafting Hood-Schifino, like you should expect to get a career arc similar to that of Spencer Dinwiddie.
You know, I kind of want to combine two players. Like,
Is
I
this your middle of the road?
yeah, like
Okay.
I think Lance Stevenson was
Oh, okay.
really good decision making because you see when Lance gets into Lance mode, he has no conscience about shooting. When Hood-Schifino is hot, he's launching that shit, and they're both tall. They both have playmaking skills. Hood-Schifino's one of his biggest issues is how bad he is at turnovers. Lance loves doing that shit. So it's and I think he has a little Malcolm Brogdon in him too.
Oh, that's a great one. I love that one.
But I think Lance, just because of the size and the all of the things that both of them do, kind of reminds me of him.
That's a really good one. My ceiling is also a combination of two players. If he's got the mid range of DeMar DeRozan, but the floor vision and playmaking of CJ McCollum. So again, you're not getting the pure point guard, but when CJ runs the point, he can rack up a few assists. Uh DeMar DeRozan's more of a two, but like when I watch him in that mid range, whether it's the high level jump shot, how he snakes through the defense, navigates the pick and roll, just loves that midi, like that's DeMar right there. And then when I see him running downhill, using hesitations and these, dribble packages to figure it out without having elite athleticism. Like I remember seeing that a lot in Lehigh when CJ was doing that. So if he hits, I think you're getting this DeMar CJ 6'6" hybrid that can be your lead ball handler. And I think that's really exciting if you're a scout and you like say this is our potential ceiling. That's one of the most unique players in the league.
I got a 90th and then my pie in the sky 100th. I think he's Mike Conley.
Okay, I like that.
And then pie in the sky, DeJounte Murray. The defense, if he develops the playmaking to that level, I think DeJounte is, I don't think it happens, but I think there's a non-zero chance it happens. Like, I think DeJounte could happen, but, you know, I mean, I'm happy with using my 16th pick on Malcolm Brogdon, too, or Lance Stevenson. Like that.
And if we're being honest, like most teams would be happy using your seventh pick in that because Malcolm Brogdon's a very good player.
Well, and
And Mike Conley, I mean, I would if
yeah,
I had the sixth pick, I would take Mike Conley at the sixth pick all day long. That career, absolutely.
Hood-Schifino has to hit the 3-point shit for the Malcolm Brogdon comp because he's gonna win sixth man of the year shooting like 50, 40, 90. But I feel like the Lance Stevenson is very attainable. I I mean the DeJounte is just such a pie in the sky thing, but I think it's possible. But like I think at worst you're getting a rotation combo guard that does some things, and then if he hits, I think he's a starting level combo guard that makes life easier for your superstar player. I don't think there's any way that, or there's a very little chance that he becomes the superstar that you need to build around. But I think that he's the guy that raises the ceiling so the superstar can be the superstar that he wants to be.
Yeah, I think he's a borderline all-star year in and year out.
if he hits.
Yeah.
Okay, because I, I feel very confident with. Yeah, he's a role player that could be a spot starter, but the all-star thing I think is very pie in the sky for me. But I think the reason we decided to do this draft, this player in this time, is because you liked him, not me. So I'm glad that you have a higher opinion of him than I do. I think that that's good because if this was my guy, I was like, yeah, I think a role player is good, like. But again, it's where we pick them. That's all it is for me, man. Because 7, I feel like you have to have a star potential.
Well,
But
you
is
also
there?
have to know the board too, right? You have to
Yeah,
know what other teams value him as. If other teams have him at 15 and you're taking him at 7, that's just not utilizing the draft
yeah.
to your fullest capabilities. Like
We
you
have
have to
to
know
be
what you're doing.
one piece away if we take him at 7 because we just know that he's the missing piece.
You have to be 100% sure that you can't get him if you trade down. If that's your guy.
Yeah,
Like otherwise you need to read the rooms, find your sources, and say, "Oh, this team wants them. Okay, they're not going to jump ahead of me. X, Y, whatever." Like you just have to know like where he is at on other teams' boards.
like
Uh,
for instance, if Jarris Walker's on the board and Orlando's there, I feel pretty damn safe that if we're behind Orlando, we're getting Jarris Walker because
you have to
they
also
have they have
worry
a
that
bunch
somebody
of
won't
Jarris
jump,
Walkers.
but they won't trade with Orlando too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, but like,
again, you have to know what teams value each prospect, and that's why it's good to
yeah,
keep it under wraps. It's going to be an interesting draft here. As we're recording, it's the 22nd. There are 4 teams bunched up between 5 and 8. You've got Orlando, Portland, Indiana, and Washington, that really all could interchangeably be in those picks. If you go
I
to,
think Washington's actually trying to make the plan.
they lost to Orlando. Or I think Orlando's actually trying to make it. Like they're playing. Gary Harris is getting real minutes for them.
Yeah.
Like they're trying. Indiana's the one you have to watch out for. They
Mm.
keep resting Matherin and Halliburton. But if you go to 538 and you just type in NBA predictions for 2023, it has a daily update of how they feel, projected record, chance of making the playoffs, chance of winning the finals. I check that every day. The projected record right now would be in terms of 5, 6, 7, 8, Orlando, Portland, Indiana, Washington, each position separated by a game, one
Ooh.
win. So that's why it's really important to just, grin and bear it, take your medicine with these next 11 games, and hopefully Portland can end up at 5 or 6 heading into the draft so that they just have more options, and they can do more things. And whether it's build around Dame or build for the future, you're giving yourself the best possible chance at enhancing your organization and your roster.
All right, man. We will be back next week to talk more draft. Do you have anyone you want to talk about, or do we want to keep it secret, even though we've never kept any of these secret?
I would say for our fans, watch Arkansas. That
Okay.
game against UConn is going to be. That's one I am really looking forward to. UConn's got a guard, Jordan Hawkins. Um, Full disclosure, I also picked UConn to win the tournament, so I'm hoping they win.
Oh,
Uh,
I actually need them to lose. I have 100 percentile bracket right now, so I would prefer me to do well rather than you, the one person who doesn't have a perfect bracket in this podcast. So I would need Arkansas to win, and then
let's go. Let's
Alabama to
go. Let's
winning
go.
the whole thing.
Let's go UConn. Let's hope Bama stubs their toe mightily.
No,
That
no,
would be
no, 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 no,
beautiful.
no, no, no. 100
Uh,
percentile lineup, man. We're rocking with them until the wheels fall off at the NCAA
the
tournament.
wheels are gonna fall off for Bama, but watch Anthony Black, point guard for Arkansas. He'll probably be one of our next guys that we